fourscore and 7 years. I'm just kidding. All these great speeches. I feel like I have to up my game right now. People are more likely to put effort into things when they find a value with whatever that activity is, or when they make some connection between whatever they're doing and some eventual goal they have. My nephew, when he was little, he was a pretty good student, but one time he got in trouble, and the teacher called my sister down, and they said, James isn't handing in some worksheets or something. So my sister was concerned, and she went down to see the teacher. And she said, what's going on? I think there were some handwriting worksheets. You're supposed to fill out all these things. And so my sister said, why aren't you handing these things in? So James said, well, the teacher told me that if I filled out this worksheet, she would give me a sticker, a gold star. He said it seemed like a lot of work for a little sticker, so I just didn't do them. So my sister said, no, it's not about the gold star or the sticker. It's actually about eye-hand coordination and learning how to communicate. And then James says, oh, okay, that makes sense. Maybe I'll do them now. And then he was fine. How much would somebody have to pay you to get up at 4:30 in the morning, eat 5 raw eggs, and jog 10 miles? Would you do it for $50 a week, 100, 200? Yes? Some people do it for nothing. Why? Why would they possibly do that? Well, presumably because there's some goal that they have that this activity is going to help them get through. If somebody found a $100 bill on the floor, most of us would pick it up. We know what the value of a $100 bill is. If that $100 bill were out right in front of a fence, and behind the fence there was a barking, rabid, frothing at the mouth pit bull. Pit bull lovers, if I said barking, rabid chihuahua, wouldn't be fearful, so it has to be a pit bull. How many people out of 100 do you think would jump in the backyard with this pit bull? Not too many, probably, right? I'll pick up the $100 and leave the pit bull alone. But most of us, if we noticed a small child, for example, walking in the backyard with that pit bull, and the pit bull looked at it and was about to go running toward it, hopefully more people now would go in the backyard to save the child. Why? Well, they can still get bitten, they can still get hurt, but now there's something valuable back there, something worth maybe taking those risks for. Now, I'm going to submit to you that even if you couldn't care less about children, which I hope you do, but even if you don't care, if you think about it, maybe this person's grandmother lives a few miles away. Well, if somebody were trying to knock into their home, break into their grandmother's apartment or something, wouldn't you want someone to do something about it, to call the police or something? If their car was parked around the corner and someone were trying to steal it, wouldn't they want someone to try to call the police or help their car? I would imagine so. Well, the price we pay for much of society actually looking out for our grandmother and our car is every now and then we have to jump in the backyard with a pit bull. Hopefully never, but it might happen. Again, how many people here would like a baseball bat slammed into your knee? Not too many. One person. All right, well, that's a bigger number than I thought. But there have been people in our society, there have been people who've sat at lunch counters, for example, knowing that other people are going to get real mad at them and hit them with a baseball bat. Why would they do it? Because whatever it is that they were doing it for, whatever their reasoning was, it must have felt so good to them that even the pain of a baseball bat in the knee didn't overcome how good that thing felt. Can you imagine if you can find something that's that important to you, how powerful you could possibly be in the world? That's one of the things we want to do. Find those things. You become a force in your own life and in the life of society. Has anybody heard that question, what would you do if you had $1 million in the bank? Well, I used to ask that question, and our students nowadays are a bit more savvy. They come up with some investment plan or some real estate scheme or something. So I changed the story. I said, what would you do if you could freeze a year of your life? In other words, let's say you had a dentist appointment tomorrow. Well, now you have a dentist appointment a year and a day from now, but your teeth don't get any worse. You get to freeze. So you can do whatever you want for a year and then come right back and not skip a beat. What would you do? Well, I get people thinking about it, and still some people ask me, can I take the profit I make in the future? But that's not the point. They say things like, well, I'd probably work on a novel. That's what I really want to do. Some people say I would research cancer cures because that's important in my family and I would like to do that eventually. Some people say I would learn how to sail and go visit my family, or I'd practice with my band. The point is that they find things if they have a matter of time. We're not always going to get millions of dollars in the world, but we're always going to have exactly the same amount of time. So let's think about what those things are that we really want to do. Let's say somebody did this and they said to themselves, you know what I would do for that year? I'd play football. I really like football. Okay, well, what is the pinnacle? What is the height of an NFL football player's career? It's the Super Bowl, right? So what do? Do they say, all right, I found out what I wanted to do. I want to play in the Super Bowl. and then they run down to the Super Bowl, break into the, wherever the stadium is, they'd probably get arrested if they did that. But you can get to the Super Bowl. How do you get to the Super Bowl? You get to the Super Bowl by winning a playoff game against presumably a really good team. Do we agree? Okay, now those people wanted to win the Super Bowl also, so they're going to fight hard. But even to get to that playoff game, you have to go up against another really good playoff team. Even to get to the playoffs, you have to go through an entire season, right? Now during that season, you probably won a lot of games, sure. You probably lost some games. You might have been injured at some point. That happens in our careers. Maybe one time you caught the big pass and everybody loved you. Maybe sometime you dropped the pass and people didn't like you. But even to get to the regular season, to be on the team, you had to go through a training camp. Now, presumably in that training camp, and I see school as this training camp, just to cut to the chase here. I see in the training camp you played some football for sure, but you also probably did wind sprints and push-ups and all kinds of things that were no fun at all. And unless you can relate those activities to eventually being in that big game, you may be less inclined to do all that work, if that makes sense. But even to get to the training camp, you have to show some promise. And myself and yourselves and all the people in school, obviously we've shown some promise. We have something worth working toward. Clearly, otherwise we wouldn't be here. Now your football, maybe football is not your thing. Maybe your big day is a cello concert. I don't know, you want to be in whatever a cello person is called, a cellist, I guess. Maybe your big day is raising a family. Maybe you want to pitch an idea for somebody, for some business. We're going to have those big days. The question we should keep asking ourselves is, are we going to be prepared on those days? So each of the days that we spend in school, there's lots of stuff that we can learn, lots of ways of preparing ourselves. It's not about the gold star or things. It's about what those activities can do that can help us prepare. Has anybody seen the movie The Karate Kid? Not the old one actually. Okay, in the movie The Karate Kid, there was a kid who got beat up and he didn't like that. So he went to this other guy, Mr. Miyagi, and he said, could you help me learn karate because I don't want to get beat up anymore. So Mr. Miyagi said, sure, come by. And over the next couple of days, Mr. Miyagi had him doing all kinds of chores in the kid's mind, Daniel-san's mind. There were these chores, wax the car and sand the deck and do all this stuff. So one day, he comes back and he says, I'm ready to learn karate today. And Mr. Miyagi says, well, today I want you to paint the fence. He said, I want you to paint the fence with the long boards, go up and down with your right hand, and the shorter boards, go up and down with your left. Don't do it like this. He told him exactly how to do it. So the kid said, fine, and he painted the fence. Well, the next day, Mr. Miyagi said to him, okay, you're ready to go? And he says, yeah, could you please teach me karate? I'm doing all this work. And Mr. Miyagi had some other, chores for him to do. So the kid said, you know what, this is just work, work, work. I came here to learn karate. I don't even know what I'm doing. So Mr. Miyagi said to him, come here. And he said, show me paint the fence. And Mr. Miyagi went to punch him, and Daniel painted the fence. What did he just do? He blocked the punch. So it dawned on him that all this stuff that he didn't really understand what he was doing, he thought it was just extra work, was actually good for him, for the very thing he wanted to do, not for some, again, jumping through a hoop just to prove you can do it. He actually was learning what he wanted to learn, even though he didn't notice it in the beginning. Now let's say for a second that when Mr. Miyagi went inside, he said, paint the fence like this. This is way too much work. I'm just going to go rent a spray painter. So he gets a spray paint, he spray paints the fence. Well, in his mind, it's much more efficient. I don't have time for this. I have a job, I have careers. We're all in school. Many of us have a lot of other things to do. But now when that kid is going to be in a fight, or whatever that is, and someone goes to punch him and he goes to spray paint, what's going to happen to him? He's not going to have, he's going to get hurt. And this is the same thing with our football player. If the coach said to the football player, go around these goalposts 50 times, and when the coach goes away, the guy says, he never said how, let me get a moped. Well, when the big game comes, he'll be huffing and puffing and not prepared. Now, if he wanted to play football, that's what he wanted to do. He's not going to be very good at it, even when he has the opportunity for those big moments, because he didn't understand the value of the activities. Does this make sense so far? Okay. Now, we're here in an educational institution, obviously. So what does this even mean, educate? What does it mean to educe? Has anybody thought of what education means? It means, the root of education literally means to bring out. It doesn't mean to put information in. It means to bring out of somebody. To bring out what? Well, lots of stuff. What do human beings have inside us? Well, we have appetites. We're appetitive creatures. We have emotions and passions. And we also have what I call our big human brain, where we can set goals for ourselves. But sometimes people might say, well, appetites, what does that have to do with school? I mean, I like to eat. An animal does that. What does that have to do with me? Well, let's think about it for a second. We have, at school, we can learn things like self-discipline, we can learn delayed gratification, we can learn self-control, we can learn all kinds of willpower, things like that. Well, when you have a fitness goal or a sports goal that you want to go on a particular diet for, or a sport regimen, well, having all those disciplines can help transfer over and everything. Then someone might say, well, what about my feelings? I mean, I feel what I feel. What does school have to do with how my feelings are? Again, a lot of us have feelings like empathy and love, but we also have jealousy and envy. Well, if you can cultivate some of those powers of self-discipline, maybe you can concentrate a little more on the empathy and affection and try not to be so envious and jealous. Also, have you ever heard about people who can push your buttons? They call you a name or they push you. Yeah, we all got that one. But if you had some more self-control, then you could just do what my friend says. Then they're not important to you. You have other goals. You don't need to worry about them. And all of this can be developed just by some of the things that we do here at school. What else do we have? Again, our big human brain. We set goals for ourselves. Anybody here who has ever set out to learn a foreign language or play a musical instrument or won a spelling bee or whatever, you know that when you set the goal and you achieve it, that feels pretty good. It's not just an intellectual, oh, I'm smart now, my life is better. I mean, it really does feel good to have those kinds of things. But we have more available to us. We're also people who can memorize. We have the power of memory. We have the power of inductive reasoning, the power of deductive reasoning. We have the power of imagination, the power of vision. We have all kinds of, we can learn to be have more perseverance. We can learn to be patient. We can learn a lot of things at school, way aside from the simple little worksheets and things like that. I've identified 3 basic concepts that I think can frame what there is to be gotten out of school. Those 3 concepts are love, honor, and autonomy. Well, love. Isn't love really the reason we do anything? You love a particular food, so you eat it. It drives you. It motivates you to go eat that. There are people in our lives that we care about. There are people we don't like, and we avoid them. But there are people we care about, and we go toward them. And loving somebody can help us do things that we wouldn't do for people we didn't love. And of course, there are those social goals and justice and those higher acts that we set for ourselves. Honor. Isn't honor simply the standards to which we hold ourselves? Isn't honor the way we carry ourselves when we're trying to get those things that we love and bring those into our lives? For example, if you're honorable in your relationships at school, if you pick people up when you say you're going to pick them up, you meet them in the library when you say you're going to meet them in the library, if you do the work on the group project that you say you're going to do, if you hold up your end of all those bargains, you're a person of your word, you might gain a reputation for being an honorable person, a person of your word. This is outside of any class. This is just you. Well, that reputation can help you gain business contacts later in life. They're going to remember you're an honorable stand-up person. It might help you gain political allies. And you might actually make friends. But also honor in your actual schoolwork. If you do your part on the group project, if you do the things you say you're going to do, then all those skills that those activities were supposed to teach you and supposed to strengthen in you, like with the painting the fence and things, all those things eventually you will gain by being honorable and doing the things as a student you say you're going to do. It's not because the teacher wants you to jump through a hoop or give you a gold star or something. They're not obstacles. It's a training regimen to make you powerful and you stronger so that you can actually do those things that you want to do, even if you don't know what those things are yet. Some people might say things, well, wait a second. I want to be a firefighter. What does that have to, why am I taking an ethics class? Okay, well, aside from the obvious, if you take an ethics class, you can learn how other people make ethical decisions. Once you start to learn how other people make ethical decisions, you can start to understand their assumptions and their presuppositions, like where they're coming from. This could give you a little bit of predictive power, because when you meet somebody and you understand what they're basing their worldview on, then you might be able to understand where they're going next. You might be able to see flaws in their reasoning. The more you learn how other people make decisions, maybe you can see where there's some error in it. And maybe they can show you where you have an error in your decision-making process. Somebody might say something like, I want to be a writer. Why am I taking a math class? Okay, well, writers buy stuff. I mean, there's the basic math skills, obviously. Maybe geometry, so you can put carpeting on your floors. But there's even more. What do you do in a math class? You're training your brain to be precise. You're training your brain to follow an order of operations, to get exact answers, to be rigorous. This will help you throughout everything. It's not about the little worksheet and jumping through a hoop. It's about making yourself stronger. Somebody might say, okay, but wait a second, I want to be a computer programmer. Why am I taking a biology class? Well, are you going to vote for politicians? Because politicians are going to vote on stem cell research and euthanasia and abortion issues and nutrition standards for our children in the schools and homeostasis, polluting the environment. I mean, they're going to vote on all those issues. Taking a biology class these are important for everybody, including computer programmers. But wait a second, I want to be a scientist. Why am I taking an art class? Tell me that one. Okay, let me take a shot. In an art class, what do? You deal with stuff, like material stuff. Well, so do our scientists. Empirical research is dealing with stuff. You may gain some dexterity with different instruments, whatever artists use. Not an artist, but the same things that we want our scientists to do, right? We want them to learn how to manipulate and utilize things so they can do their experiments. But there's even more. We want our artists to look at things from new angles and show us the world in ways that we hadn't seen them before. Well, this is exactly what we want our scientists to do. When our scientists are presented with problems, they look out there and they can't Google them because they're not on Google yet. The scientists are the ones who put this information on Google or wherever. So our scientists then can approach, by taking an art class and learning how to kind of see things from different angles, they can do what Goethe called approach from multiple Vorstellungsarten, approach it from lots and lots of different ways of conceiving things. Every now and then somebody says, well, what about blah, 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 this particular class? That's a waste of time. Why am I taking, we've all maybe even said that. I don't want to see who said that. But we've all heard that. Well, let's see if there's a class that's a waste of time. 12th century French literature, right? Why do I have to take that? Sorry for your literature people. Well, it might be interesting on its own, so we'll give you that. But what are you doing in 12th century French literature? If you fill out a worksheet and find out who said what on what page and who the author was and identification, maybe it is a waste of time. I mean, because you could be doing other things. But if you actually do some other processes, for example, if you start to build the world that the author was trying to show us, or you go to each of the characters and you say, what are these characters afraid of? What are these characters trying to do? If you can do that, at some point you start to build what I call world building skills. In other words, you can culture building skills. Whatever that world that sometimes it comes back reflected, we see ourselves reflected in other characters. Back to autonomy for a minute. Remember love, honor, and autonomy? It was just a couple minutes ago. Well, some of the ways we get autonomy from school, it relates to this. Autonomy in school can come from instrumental things like becoming a firefighter, again, learning how to put out fires, learning how to fly an airplane, learning how to program computers. This gives us a job. You can do that. Everybody understands that one. But just like I said with the literature, it can also help us gain insight into ourselves. When we start reading literature or humanities or even history, we can start to see ourselves reflected. What do these people fear? Maybe has anyone ever heard a song and you said, yeah, that's just like me, I felt that same way. Well, that's what all these literature and all these artists are doing. So when we start to learn how to see what world they all lived in, it gives us autonomy because we can learn about ourselves a little more, but it also helps us build culture building skills once again. Going back to autonomy, I'll stay on that for a second. I jump around a lot. In school, has anyone here known of, how many different political systems do you know about? Is it 2, communism and democracy? Is it 3, is it 4? I mean, there are lots of different systems out there. There are lots of different economic systems. There are a lot of different value systems and things. School can introduce you to that. And as I mentioned earlier, when you gain self-control, willpower, things like that, that helps you have more autonomy in the world. Now, these culture building skills, some people might say, well, what do you mean culture building skills? I mean, why don't we just keep doing what we're doing? We're doing fine. Well, are we doing fine? Is everything perfect? If we keep doing what we've been doing, we're just going to keep getting whatever it is we've gotten before. And some people might say, well, why don't we just try things? We'll just try new things, see what happens. Okay, let's go try and see what cyanide tastes like, if that's what you want to just do. Not recommended. But if what we want our visionaries to do, the people in our society who can go, and they close their mind and they actually build a world internally that, you and I might say you're fantasizing. Well, if we don't see what they see, then it's a fantasy. It might not ever happen. But if we can learn to gain facility with all those different kinds of worlds, with all the fears other people have lived through, all the joys, loves, they're just humans. They've gone through a lot of the things we have. But if we can gain facility with those cultural world-building skills, which is what you do at school, then we can guide our development in our country a little bit more. Right now, you're you, whoever you are. I call you present day you. I'll call it present you. Presumably, there's going to be a you 2 weeks from now, there's going to be a you 5 months from now, and there's going to be a you 10 years from now. We talked about that. Well, the 10-year from now you could either look back on the you from today and say, thank you so much for doing all that work. Thank you so much for writing those essays and being a stand-up person and gaining all the powers. It was not ever about, those stars and stickers. It was always about that. Now I'm on that stage, I'm in the Super Bowl, whatever your Super Bowl is. That you can be so proud and confident and powerful, or that 10 years from now you can look back on you right now and say, can I curse? What the hell was going on in your mind? Why didn't you do anything? It was not about, so you skipped out of the group assignment and you got the A anyway. Who cares? I'm on the field right now and there are big people running at me and I'm out of breath. Or I'm about to pitch my business idea and I just can't put it all together. I don't get it. The point of this training camp of school is not to jump through a hoop. It's not to get a gold star or any of that. The point is to make you powerful, make you strong, learn skills, all those other things that I was talking about. If at any given moment in your life you can ask yourself the question, is what I'm doing right now the best possible thing for me to be doing, given my goals and my values in life? Well, if you can say yes, you're doing fine. But if you say no, you have a decision to make. To paraphrase Thoreau, one of our big ones, it's okay to have big lofty goals and castles in the air, he called them, but use the training camp of school, I say, to make yourself so powerful that you can build that foundation and support all your goals. And it's not about gold stars and stickers and 3 points. It's about you. Keep that in mind. Thank you.